Hi, I'm Mark Coker. I'm the founder of Smashwords. I'd like to welcome you to my video. Today we're going to talk about the 10 trends driving the future of authorship. I think it's really important for you to understand where the world is going, because once you know what the major macro trends are, you can start preparing your publishing activities today to benefit from these trends. One of the things I'll talk about today is how and why I think these trends will disadvantage authors who continue working with traditional publishers. So that should be interesting. This video is intended for any writer anywhere in the world who has either written a book or is considering writing a book. So I hope you enjoy it. In most of my videos, as well as most of the workshops I do at writers' conferences, I always give some brief background on who I am and how I got here. I think it's helpful for you to understand the context behind my opinions. So in this video, I'm going to give you a somewhat abbreviated version of it. That's me. That's the person talking. I fell into this business by accident about 10 years ago. My wife and I wrote a novel about soap operas. The novel, despite being represented by one of the top literary agencies in the country, was rejected by every major New York publisher of commercial women's fiction, and rejected not just once but twice over a period of 2 years. The publishers were reluctant to take a chance on the book because previous soap opera themed novels had not performed well in the marketplace. Now, like any self-respecting author, I decided it can't be my fault, it must be the publishing industry's fault. I decided that the writer community deserved greater freedom to publish what they want, and I decided readers deserved the freedom to read what they want, rather than having publishers decide what could be published and what could be read. So I founded this little company, Smashwords, to try to change the way books are published, marketed, and sold. The general idea behind Smashwords is that it would be a free ebook publishing platform that would allow me to take a chance on every single author and let the marketplace decide which books are worth reading. Now, prior to launching Smashwords, I've got a pretty long career in technology marketing and also in entrepreneurship. About 10 years ago, I founded a company called bestcalls.com. And Best Calls was an investor website that published earnings conference call schedules for small individual investors. And there's kind of an interesting parallel between what I was trying to do with Best Calls and what I'm trying to do with Smashwords. With Best Calls at the time, 10 years ago, nearly all publicly traded companies at that time would hold quarterly earnings conference calls for their investors, and they would only invite large Wall Street analyst firms and investor firms. So the little guy was shut out of the process, and as a result, the little guy was disadvantaged in terms of gaining access to important market-moving information about their investments. So I created Best Calls to try to change the way public companies communicated to their investors. When I launched Best Calls, a lot of people thought I was crazy, and it was a little crazy. But within about a year and a half of us launching Best Calls, we managed to lobby the Securities and Exchange Commission, and the Securities and Exchange Commission proposed a regulation called Regulation FD, which mandated that all publicly traded companies release material market-moving information to all investors at the same time. And that blew the doors to conference calls wide open. So now today, small investors can listen in on these quarterly earnings conference calls with company management. So that was a lot of fun. We sold the company after a few years to a company that was then acquired by the NASDAQ stock exchange, and NASDAQ continued to operate Best Calls up until just a couple years ago. Now, in parallel with Best Calls and prior to Best Calls, I was running a Silicon Valley PR agency called Dovetail. And that was a fun job as well. At our height, we had probably 14 employees representing hot Silicon Valley startups and also large publicly traded companies. So that's my background, and hope that's interesting to you. Now let's move back to publishing. This is the problem that I saw. Publishers controlled everything. They had a monopoly. They controlled the printing press, they controlled access to retail distribution, and they controlled and possessed all the knowledge necessary to be a professional publisher. I see these as the three legs to the stool. You need a printing press, distribution, and knowledge if you're going to become a professional, successful publisher. And that's what I want to help all indie authors become. I want all self-published authors to become professional publishers. And this is what we try to offer at Smashwords. So Smashwords is a free ebook publishing and distribution platform, if you're not familiar with us. We offer fast, free ebook conversion. You upload your book to us, we instantly convert it into multiple ebook formats, make it available for sale. We offer distribution to most of the major ebook retailers. In fact, we were the first to open up distribution to major stores such as Barnes & Noble and Kobo back in 2009. And today we're, in addition to those two, we're also distributing to the Apple iBook store, let's see, Kobo, Sony, Barnes & Noble, Diesel, Page Foundry. We're distributing to public libraries. We're distributing to Baker & Taylor. We distribute a few books to Amazon, not many, and we're adding retail outlets all the time. The third thing that we focus on is helping to spread best practices knowledge, and that's why we're creating this video tutorial series. This is why we speak at conferences around the country. This is why I wrote the 3 books I wrote about ebook publishing: the Smashwords Style Guide, the Smashwords Book Marketing Guide, and the Secrets to Ebook Publishing Success. It's all about helping to spread best practices knowledge. My view is that if we can help educate the community of the world's authors, that self-published authors will become more successful and inherit the future of publishing. That's my goal here. And that's what's going to happen. All right, this is what's happened at Smashwords since we launched in 2008. The first year we published 140 books. Today we're publishing over 250,000 books as I speak. I'm recording this in late September 2013. And despite our incredible growth over the last few years, I still feel like we're just getting started. I think we've only scratched the surface of what's possible with this indie ebook revolution. So thank you for joining us for this ride, and thanks for letting us be part of your journey. All right, so that's enough about me. Let's talk about your future as an author. So we live today in uncertain times. We face multiple converging cross currents and trends that bring both threat and opportunity to authors and to publishers. And it's all about how you react to those trends that defines whether or not these trends represent a threat or an opportunity. So let's examine what some of these forces for change are and what these changes mean for you. So I'll go through the trends one by one. The first trend, not a surprise, is the rise of ebooks. Screens are the new paper. E-reading is moving to screens. Now this is a blast from the past. This is what the ebook market looked like in 2008, the year we launched. And this is data from the Association of American Publishers. What you see is that ebooks accounted for about 1% of overall book sales in 2008. That was up from about 0.5% the year before, and a quarter of 1% back in 2005 when I first started working on the Smashwords business plan. Now, at this time in 2008, most of the major publishers weren't spending much time thinking about ebooks. The general consensus in the publishing industry was that ebooks didn't really matter because they only accounted for about 1% of the market. In a sense, that was true. You know, if you're running a publishing business and 99% of your sales are in print and only 1% are in the ebook format, you might not think ebooks were very important. But when I looked at this data, I thought, wow, there's a huge opportunity here. Look at this growth from basically nothing to, well, a little bit more than nothing. I at least like the trend. Now let's fast forward to more recently. This is what's happened since 2008. Here again is 2008. You see the market just exploded exponentially. It grew so much faster than I ever expected it would. And I think it grew faster than any publisher expected it would. And the major catalysts for this growth were, the biggest catalyst that I would credit would be Amazon. Amazon entered the ebook market in late 2007, early 2008, and used their market position and their marketing heft to do just a super awesome job of introducing millions of readers to the joys of ebooks. So in 2012, this is my estimate. This is not from the Association of American Publishers. I would estimate that ebooks accounted for about 30% of the overall ebook market. I might be wrong. It might be higher or lower. And I know that it also depends on what genre you're looking at. So for example, in romance, this percentage is probably a lot higher. But I want you to spend more time just looking at the general trend. Now, I'll also point out that this trend is not going to continue. This trend can't continue. It is impossible that the market will continue to double or triple every single year. In fact, as I look at what's happening in 2013, we're already seeing strong signs that the ebook market is flattening out and that the growth is slowing. I think it will continue to grow, but I don't think it's going to grow as fantastically as it has in the past. So here is the first of several what I call irresponsibly simplified macro representations of the future. Now, as an author, as you're sitting here trying to position yourself for the future, it's more important that you understand the overall direction of the change and where we're headed. It's more important that you understand that than you understand when we're actually going to get there. So today, if we assume ebooks account for about 30% of the market, print books account for about 70% of the market. But as a self-published author, the print book market isn't really available to you because you can't get brick and mortar bookstore distribution unless you're working with a large publisher. Now, the interesting thing about this data, if we flip back here, is that this growth in market share, which is based on dollar sales, this growth actually underestimates the rate at which eyeballs are moving to screens. Because ebooks cost a lot less than print books. So the percentage of reading that's happening on screens is actually much greater than 30%. In fact, we are probably today very close to approaching 50%, very close to approaching a crossover point where more words are read on screens than read on paper. And this is very significant because unit volume is very important. It's a forward indicator of where the market is going, and it's also the best measure of what readers are reading, what they're reading, and which authors are generating the largest fan bases and the largest platforms. So pay attention to unit volume. I think we're probably only a few months, if not less than a year, away from seeing more words consumed on screens than on paper. So pretty soon we'll see this line move to here. So what's driving this? Well, I mentioned that Amazon deserves a lot of credit for driving this, but the credit is no longer Amazon's alone. Um, we've seen multiple major retailers joining the ebook game. We've seen Barnes& and Noble, Kobo, Apple has made a tremendous impact on the industry. So we've got virtually every major retailer and online digital media seller is now selling ebooks and promoting ebooks. But a lot of the growth really comes down to the customer experience. For many readers, reading on a screen is a more pleasurable experience than reading on paper, and the primary reason is that you can click a button and increase the font size. It makes reading more comfortable, even for those of us that have pretty good vision. I really enjoy reading larger type on my iPhone. Um, it's also important to understand what I see is the three primary drivers of consumer behavior. I don't care if you're buying um, groceries or you're buying ebooks or you're buying music or whatever. As consumers, we appreciate low cost, convenience, and broad selection. You can call this the Walmart effect. So this is what Walmart did to compete against Main Street America. It's what Barnes& and Noble and Borders did to compete against small independent bookstores. And it's what Amazon offers to compete against the remaining bookstores and basically the remaining sellers of anything. Amazon is selling virtually everything under the sun. So these are the important drivers of consumer behavior. And when we bring this back to ebooks, ebooks offer a better consumption experience measured by cost, convenience, and selection. Ebooks cost a fraction of the price of print books. Ebooks make it very convenient to discover, sample, and purchase. You can go click, 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 and have instant access to reading pleasure. That immediacy is really important. And then we've got a huge selection now. You can go to any major retailer and choose from a selection of over 1 million low-cost ebooks. In fact, many of the books are priced at free. At Smashwords, as of today, we've got over 25,000 books that are priced at free. Second big trend, book selling is moving to the web. So here's my second irresponsibly simplified macro representation of the future. Today, more books, both print books and ebooks, are purchased online than are purchased at brick and mortar bookstores. And I think this trend will continue. So what's driving it? Well, brick and mortar bookstores are disappearing. We lost Borders. Borders is out of business. Barnes& and Noble, the other major brick and mortar retailer here in the U.S., is definitely under pressure. They're starting to close some stores, but they're still hanging in there. And around the world, we're seeing the same thing. Brick and mortar bookstores are under a lot of pressure. We're going to see increased store closures there. And when those stores disappear, the amount of physical shelf space dedicated to books disappears, and the opportunities for consumers to serendipitously discover physical books declines. So we've also got the major macro trend of reading moving to screens and readers moving away from print. That benefits the rise of online book selling. And again, we've got these three consumer drivers that are driving the move to online book selling. This has some pretty serious implications for publishers because it means that, in the old world of print book publishing, publishers had an exclusive lock on retail distribution. If you were an author and you wanted to reach readers, you had no choice but to work with a publisher because a publisher controlled access to the retailers where readers go to buy books. But now, in the realm of online book selling, both for print and for ebooks, A self-published author can get distribution to these online stores. All these stores want to carry self-published works, and those books are displayed side by side with the books from traditional publishers. And customers don't care. They don't care what publisher name is on that virtual spine of that book. They care about the author. Trend 3, the democratization of publishing. So back in the dark ages of publishing, prior to 5 years ago, publishers controlled the printing press, access to retail distribution, and the best practices knowledge of publishing. Today, authors have free access to all of these tools. This, as I mentioned, is what we do at Smashwords, a free ebook printing press, distribution to major retailers, and the knowledge of professional publishing practices. So today, if you are an aspiring author, you have access to all of these tools. All you need to do is make the effort to go out and seek them out. So publishers are losing their monopoly. Writers no longer need a publisher to publish, distribute, and sell their books. This is a radical change from the way it was in the future, or in the past. In the past, writers were bred to believe that they had to bow subservient to the publishing gods, that only publishers could bestow upon them the honor of the title of published author. And until a publisher blessed you as such, you were a failure. And that was the false religion that was really commonplace up until recently. But now writers are realizing they don't need publishers anymore. They have the tools, they have the ability, they have the talent to publish on their own. So writers are asking two very dangerous questions, and these are dangerous questions if you're standing in the shoes of a publisher. The first question is, do I need a publisher? What can a publisher do for me that I can't already do for myself? And this question is growing louder and louder and louder as ebooks increase as a percentage of overall book sales and print books decrease, because as print as a percentage of the overall book market declines, it means publishers have less value to offer to authors. The second big question, and this is even more dangerous if you're standing in the shoes of a publisher, is that there's a growing awareness among authors, among the author community, that in the world of ebooks, a publisher is more likely to harm your career as an ebook author, because they're going to overprice your book. And by overpricing your book, they're going to limit your audience, they're going to limit your platform building and your fan building and your unit sales. We'll talk more about this a little bit later. So already I've heard stories of authors sitting around the table, and one author raises their hand and says, I just got a deal, just got a publishing contract with New York, and the other authors sitting around the table say, oh, I'm so sorry. This is happening. At every writers conference I go to, I'm meeting more and more authors who tell me that they're not even going to bother with traditional publishing anymore. They are tired of waiting to be blessed by some publisher, and these authors are finding success on their own terms, self-publishing. They don't want to work with these large publishers unless the large publishers throw a big wad of money at them. And so, we're in this really interesting transitional stage where writers are beginning to wake up and start to realize what's possible. Trend 4. Self-published authors are gaining competitive advantage over traditionally published authors. So these are the benefits of indie authorship. Now, if you're new to my video series, you're going to hear me speak about these terms. Indie authorship, self-published authors, they're synonyms, they're the same thing. So if I've thrown you off there, that's what it means. So these are the benefits of self-published ebook authorship. Indie ebook authors enjoy faster time to market. If your manuscript is completed today, you can publish it today, and it literally takes about 5 minutes from the moment you upload it to Smashwords to the moment it's available for sale to a worldwide audience. As an indie author, you enjoy greater creative control. You make the decisions about your book, about your characters, about your story arcs. You decide everything. You don't have to worry about a publisher trying to tell you that they already have 3 or 4 books just like yours on their fall list. If you've got a book that you believe in and it's ready to publish today, you can publish it today. You can publish it faster and get to market faster than a big publisher can. You're in direct contact with your readers as a self-published author, which means you can react faster to your fans' demands and desires. You can respond more quickly to the marketplace. You have lower expenses as a self-published author. You don't have Manhattan skyrise office rents to pay. This means you can offer a lower cost product, and I'm going to come back to that in a moment. You have better, more immediate distribution to a global market. Many of the publishers and the agents who are serving them are still slicing and dicing ebook rights across the globe, just as they did in the print world. And what this means is that if you work with a traditional publisher, your book might be available in some markets but not in other markets. Whereas indie authors are publishing to a global market from day one. As an indie author, your ebook is immortal. It will never go out of print. Now this represents a huge contrast with the old print world. In the old print world, a publisher would acquire rights to your book, and then 12 to 18 months later your book would appear in stores. And if your book didn't immediately jump off the retail shelves, the retailer would pack up your book and ship your book back to the publisher or to the distributor and receive a full refund. And this effectively forced hundreds of thousands of books out of print. Books that would still have audiences of happy readers today if they had not been forced out of print. But with an ebook, your book never goes out of print. As a self-published author, you can offer lower prices to your readers. Traditional publishers are typically pricing their ebooks from $8 to $13. Most indie authors are pricing between 99 cents and $4.99. $2.99 and $3.99 are some of the sweet spots for indie authors. That gives you a big advantage in the marketplace. You can also earn more per title that you sell. You earn higher royalty rates. Quadruple plus, I want you to remember that. As an indie author, as an indie ebook author, you are going to earn 60 to 80% of the list price as your royalty. And if you're selling your book off of your own website, you're earning effectively 100%. Contrast that with what a traditionally published ebook author earns, only 12 to 17%. So you'll earn 4 to 5 times more self-publishing on a percentage basis. So let's dig a little deeper and analyze what this means. It means at a retail price of $2.99, an indie author is going to earn about $2. A traditionally published author, since they're getting a lower royalty rate, would need to see their book priced between $10 and $15 to earn that same $2. So put yourself into your reader's shoes. As a reader, if you have a choice between 2 books of equal quality, and one is $2.99 and one is $12.99, which book are you going to buy? And this is the conundrum that publishers face with the rise of self-published ebooks. The indie authors are outcompeting them on price, and as a result, many of these indie authors are building faster and larger fan bases than the traditionally published authors are. Because lower price sparks this virtuous self-reinforcing flywheel. By lowering the price of any product, you're making it more affordable, more desirable, more accessible to more readers, so you can increase your unit sales of this lower cost product when you reach more readers. So you're going to get more sales, but because you're a self-published author, you're going to earn higher profits per sale. This means you can price your book lower, yet still earn more per unit than a traditionally published author would earn at a higher price. So you start to see the tremendous economic advantage that indie authors face in the marketplace. Because the big publishers and the authors of the big publishers with the higher prices are going to reach fewer readers, all other things equal. Trend 5. Traditionally published authors are suffering from these high prices. We've already talked about this. It's obvious. Book buyers are price sensitive. Now, every time you sell a book, you as an author are yielding two benefits from that sale. The first benefit that most of us think of is the royalty from that sale. You make money on every book that you sell. But the second benefit, and I would argue this is a more important benefit, is that you gain a reader. Book marketing has always been about word of mouth, and a reader is a potential fan. And a fan is a potential superfan. And a superfan becomes an evangelist for you. A superfan becomes your marketing department. Because superfans love what you do, and superfans will command their friends and family to read your book because they feel so passionate about your book. So you want more readers so you can get more fans and more superfans. Now, your pricing strategy is essential to maximizing both of these benefits. You want to maximize the amount of money you're earning, but you also want to maximize your readership. So let's look at some data here. Now, if you watch the video on the Smashwords 2013 survey, you saw this graph already. We did a survey earlier this year. We published it in May, where we analyzed over $12 million in Smashwords ebook sales aggregated across Apple, Barnes & Noble, Sony Kobo, and other retailers. And we wanted to determine how price impacts unit sales volume. Now, if you're looking to reach more readers, if you're looking to maximize your readership reach, you want to price your book at free. I don't have it on the chart here, but free books tend to get almost 100 times more downloads than a book at any other price. But for those of you who want to earn money from every book you sell, this chart is really interesting. What you see here, and this isn't a huge surprise, is that the general trend is that as the price increases, your unit sales decrease. And I normalized all the data here. So what you see here is that at the $2.99 and $3.99 price points, and also at 99 cents, you are going to sell, on average, about 4 times as many units at these prices as you would at, well, really any price over $7.99. So if you price at 99 cents or $2.99 or $3.99, you're going to reach about 4 times as many readers as these higher prices. And these higher prices are where traditionally published authors are stuck. Now, the next logical question is, well, at which price are you going to earn the most money? And so we took another look at the data, and we normalized the data so that 100% equals the average. And what we find is that prices under $1.99 underperform the average by 60 to 70%. And then what you find is that $3.99 in the latest survey looked to be a really good price for authors. But this, again, keep in mind that this is aggregated and averaged across over 120,000 different books. Your book is a unique creature, and it may respond differently. Your results may vary. That may not be the best price point for your book. Maybe the best price point is a little higher or a little lower. But the big takeaway that I want you to get here is that if you look at this, you see that on average, you're going to earn about the same amount of money whether you price it $2.99 or $9.99 or $10.99. All right. But given the knowledge that you're going to earn about the same amount of money at any price over $2.99, but you're going to sell 4 times as many copies at these lower prices, what's the best price point? Well, obviously, the best price point would be these lower prices, $2.99 and $3.99 for most authors, because you're going to earn about the same amount of money, but you're going to reach up to 4 times as many readers. So you're going to build your platform about 4 times faster than the average author who's pricing up at these higher prices. So this really helps underscore the advantage, the competitive advantage that indie ebook authors face in the marketplace. And this is why I think over the next few years, indie ebooks are going to continue to take more and more market share from the large publishers. Trend 6, print is dead for most self-published authors. So we talked a little bit about this already, but most self-published authors don't have access to brick and mortar retail distribution. And if you're selling a print book, there's no better way to sell a print book than to sell it through a physical store. So physical bookstores are disappearing. There are fewer opportunities to get your book out there. And customers, once customers move to the online realm, to the online bookstores, when they're given the choice to purchase a low-cost ebook or a high-priced print book, ebooks have a significant advantage. Now, there's some exceptions to this rule and to this trend. If you're, let's say you write nonfiction, you're a subject matter expert on something, and you are speaking to thousands of people every week, then you have an incredible opportunity to sell print books at the back of the room. If you're selling, here's another example. If you have written a book targeted at tourists of certain attractions, like Yosemite or Niagara Falls or whatever, all of these tourist attractions have bookstores, gift shops, and people are going to want your book as a souvenir. And print is a much more desirable souvenir than a digital file. So there's still a lot of opportunity for authors who are doing books like that. But for the vast majority of what book readers are purchasing, which is mostly fiction, ebooks are where the future is at. Trend 7, ebooks are going global. Earlier in the presentation, I showed you the graph of how the market in the US has grown exponentially for ebooks. Now, the market for ebooks in the US took off faster than the ebook market, took off earlier than the ebook market in other countries, because all of the necessary ingredients for the primordial soup to enable a thriving ebook ecosystem came together first in the United States. So we had Amazon, we had the availability of e-reading devices, both from Amazon and from Sony, and then we had, lots of publishers, New York publishers, making their books available as ebooks. And so those ingredients came together first here in the US. But what's happening now is that other countries outside the US, and it happened first in English language countries, and then the next wave is going to happen in non-English speaking countries. So the next wave after the US happened in the UK, Canada, Australia. Those markets are now entering the exponential growth phases of their market development. So they're experiencing fast growth, and they're going to catch up to the United States very quickly in terms of the percentage of the book market which is accounted for by ebooks. And then, as I mentioned, the next wave after the English-speaking countries will be the non-English speaking countries. all of the major ebook retailers, so Apple iBooks, Amazon Kobo, Barnes& Noble, are expanding internationally. Apple has expanded faster than anyone. They're now operating in 51 different countries. Amazon's in a little over a dozen. Kobo's in over a dozen. And Kobo has always had an international focus from day one. And Barnes& Noble is now in the UK and will supposedly be entering other countries in the next year. All you have to do as an indie ebook author to take advantage of this global growth is just make sure that your book is available at these different retailers. Now, to give you a sense of where the global market is today, we can take Apple as an example. So Smashwords is probably the largest supplier of ebooks to Apple, measured by title count. We're supplying over 200,000 titles to them. And in recent months, 45% of our sales at Apple have been outside the United States. And our books are primarily English language. Every single day, we are selling books into Japan, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, all of these countries where English is not the primary language. And it's only a few titles into each of these countries, but when you're distributing to so many different countries, if you can sell a couple titles into each country and then aggregate it efficiently, using a distributor and a retailer like Apple, those numbers can add up to significant readership benefit for you as an author. So I'm really excited about the global ebook opportunity. I think there's a lot of opportunity for self-published authors to do a lot of great things here. You should also remember that for these retailers that are operating in different stores, each of these different stores represents a different micro market for your books. So it's quite common that we'll see a book at Smashwords break out in one of the Apple stores before it breaks out at the other stores. We've had multiple books break out in Australia before they broke out around the rest of the world. So think about that as you do your marketing and your social media marketing on Twitter and Facebook. You probably already recognize this if you're in touch with your fans, that your fans are coming from all around the globe. Trend 8. The big New York publishers are getting into self-publishing. Now, on the one hand, it's great that big traditional publishers recognize that there's money to be made in self-publishing. On the other hand, I should have really labeled this slide, big New York publishers bumble and stumble their way into self-publishing. So let's look at what's happening here. In July 2012, the parent company of Penguin acquired a company called Author Solutions. Now, if you're not familiar with Author Solutions, they're a company that earns about 2/3 of their income, if not more, by selling overpriced services to authors. And they operate multiple brands, so it's very confusing. Author Solutions is kind of the umbrella parent company. They operate iUniverse, Author House, Ex Libris, Trafford. For the Spanish-speaking market, Polibrio. I don't know if I can say this on the video. Well, I guess I will. I view Author Solutions as a blood-sucking parasite. And here's why. They sell publishing packages to authors. Now, there's nothing wrong with authors investing in professional publishing services. All right, I'm a supporter of that, but I'm not a supporter of the services and the prices that Author Solutions offers authors. I'm also not a fan of their marketing tactics. They will gladly sell a self-published author a $15,000, $20,000 publishing package. I think that's criminal. They're selling overpriced, expensive services, and the authors who are purchasing these services are not going to earn that money back ever. Most of the authors are just going to lose that money. And when I think about all the up-and-coming writers who fall victim to services like this, and lose tens of thousands of dollars on these overpriced publishing packages, who pay thousands of dollars so that they can meet a Hollywood producer, or pay thousands of dollars to produce a video trailer that's not going to help them sell any books. I think it's just absolutely criminal that Author Solutions would take their money. All right, I think it boggles my mind that such a well-respected traditional publishing company such as Penguin would acquire Author Solutions. And it boggled the minds of many indie authors out there in the community who've been following Author Solutions and how they've been taking advantage of writers for years. And then what boggled my mind even more is that shortly after the acquisition of Penguin by Author Solutions, Simon & Schuster created this imprint called Archway Publishing, which is powered by Author Solutions. And what's so disappointing here is that not just that Penguin acquired the company, and not just that Simon & Schuster is getting into this evil game as well. It's what it says about the attitude of traditional publishers toward authors. Now, the great thing about traditional publishers throughout history is that they invested in authors. They acquired books, they developed relationships with authors, they helped authors build their platforms, and the money flowed from the publisher to the author. The publisher was acting as like a venture capitalist. They were investing in that author, investing in the book, and they had shared interests. Their interests were aligned. The publisher was incentivized to make that book sell so that they could earn money, and that in turn benefited the author. But now, with this approach, now that the big publishers are getting into the vanity publishing business, the money's flowing the other way. And what bugs me possibly more than anything else is the cynicism that this represents. Because what the publishers are saying is that the vast majority of writers, all these writers whose books we reject every single year, they are not good enough for us to publish. So we don't know how to make money off of them, so we're going to make money by picking their pockets. And the money's going to start flowing to the publisher from the author. So it's, to me, it's a big disappointment. And I think Penguin's acquisition of Author Solutions, Simon & Schuster's deal getting in bed with them, and other publishers who have gotten in bed with Author Solutions, I think these publishers have tarnished the reputation of all traditional publishers. And although I'm a strong believer in self-publishing and the future of self-publishing, I also believe in traditional publishing. I don't want these traditional publishers to go out of business. I think the world is generally a better place for books when we have more publishers and more authors, more people focused on adding value to books. But with this move into vanity publishing, I think it's going to accelerate the demise of traditional publishing. Because in the eyes of sophisticated indie authors, this move into vanity publishing has confirmed all of the worst fears that authors have with traditional publishers. That they don't care about you, that they're just there to take advantage of you, that they're not going to support you. And, publishers have never been perfect. No one's perfect. But I think they have provided a net benefit to humanity and to the books that they've created over time. But now they've just severely tarnished the reputation with the author community. So now writers have an additional reason not to bother shopping their books to New York. It's going to get more and more difficult for the big publishers to acquire the best books from the best authors because so many authors have such a sour view of traditional publishing now. Trend 9. The previous stigma of self-publishing is disappearing. So 5 years ago, when we launched Smashwords, self-publishing was seen as the option of last resort. It was seen as the option of last choice. It was the publishing option that was filled with shame. Very few authors at the time made the conscious choice to self-publish. Very few authors aspired to self-publish at that time. 99.9% aspired to publish traditionally. But things have changed dramatically over the last few years. I've got to give enormous props to those early pioneers 5 years ago who had the confidence in themselves to self-publish their books, because a small fraction of them went on to achieve incredible commercial success, often with books that traditional publishers had rejected. And as these indie authors achieved commercial success and as their stories got out, it inspired the next generation of writers to recognize that they too could self-publish professionally and with pride. And that's what's happening now. And the first really big wave of authors to embrace indie ebook publishing was the romance category, romance writers. Romance writers generally are very prolific, and the traditional print publishers would publish their romance titles, and then their titles would quickly go out of print, and then the publishers would give the rights back to the author, say, here are your rights back, your book no longer has value to us. And then these romance writers would then bring their books back to life as self-published ebooks, and the romance authors started achieving incredible success, which inspired the next generation of romance writers to self-publish and then inspired writers across all the genres. And so it's just building on itself. So an increasing percentage of writers are now aspiring to indie publish. So I would say here's where we're at today. Still, most authors, I believe, aspire to traditionally publish, but the percentage is decreasing. I think we're only a few years away from seeing the crossover here, where we get to a point where more authors aspire to self-publish than aspire to traditionally publish. This is going to happen. It might happen in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, but that is the general trend, because the economics and the benefits of self-publishing are just too great, too significant for the traditional publishers to compete against. And then when you've got the traditional publishers doing, idiot things like this, supporting companies like this that are selling overpriced services to authors, it's just going to accelerate that trend. Trend 10. Indie authors are beginning to outsell traditionally published authors. Every single week, you can look at any major ebook retailer, and in the top 10 and top 20 best-selling books at that retailer, you're going to find self-published ebooks. Almost every week, you can look at the New York Times ebook bestseller list, and you're going to see self-published authors in that list. A year ago, that was rare and relatively unheard of. Today, it's becoming common. Within 3 years, I think self-published ebooks are going to account for over 50% of the spots in the New York Times best-selling ebook list. So that's my prediction, 3 years. I might be a little bit conservative here. It might happen earlier, but that's the direction that we're headed. So think about that as an author, as a writer. This is where the world is moving. The plan forward. These, these 10 trends that we've talked about today create a future that benefit self-published authors. A future where self-published authors have a strategic, competitive advantage in the marketplace. And on the flip side of that, it creates a future that will disadvantage traditionally published authors, because the traditional authors are going to see their print advantage decline as readers' eyeballs move to screens, and they're going to see their ability to compete in the ebook space decline because the publishers are demanding higher prices, and the indie ebook authors who have lower expenses can offer their product more competitively priced. The other big thing that's happening here that's driving the growth of self-published ebooks is that ebook authors are becoming more professional. It's pretty amazing how the writing community has joined together to marshal their forces and share the knowledge of professional publishing best practices. And not only share the knowledge, but develop the best practices for tomorrow. So I want you to recognize that you, the writer, you're in charge now. In this future that I see, you decide when your manuscript graduates to become a published book. As a writer, you decide when you graduate from writer to published author. Now, it's really important that you recognize and accept and embrace the burden of responsibility of becoming a professional publisher. You need to honor your readers with a professional quality book. Readers expect nothing less. They expect a great book from you. Your book needs to be as good or better than what New York is putting out. And it needs to have a cover image that is as good or better than what New York is putting out. And you should price it lower. So you have the opportunity today now to publish faster, smarter, and more profitably at lower prices. You have competitive advantage in the marketplace of the future. So thank you for considering the future. If you haven't checked out my ebooks yet, please do so. These are the 3 books I wrote. The first book I wrote is the Smashwords Style Guide. That will teach you how to format and publish an ebook. All you need is a word processor, and it'll guide you through step by step with lots of pictures. The second book I wrote is the Smashwords Book Marketing Guide. And by the way, all of these books are helpful to you even if you don't work with Smashwords. You don't need to work with Smashwords to benefit from these books. The Book Marketing Guide presents 41 tips, 41 ideas to help you market your book and help you build your author platform. And all of these ideas are free to implement. And then the third book that I wrote, which I published last year, is The Secrets to Ebook Publishing Success. I identified 30 best practices of the most commercially successful ebook authors. So the authors who are selling the most books, these are their secrets. And I wrote this based on my observations, working with, well, now over 60,000 Smashwords authors. The smarts that indie authors are bringing to the publishing game will just blow your mind. These people are some of the smartest people in the business. They are pioneering the best practices for the future of publishing. And I did my best with this book to capture and organize those best practices around those 30 different best practices. So you can go get these books at any major retailer. They're all priced at free. So yes, free. You can download them for free at Smashwords, Apple, Barnes & Noble, Sony, Kobo, Amazon. Go get them today. If you're not yet with Smashwords, I'd be honored if you would consider checking us out sometime. You can join Smashwords for free at smashwords.com. We'll help you gain access to the best practices knowledge that you need to publish professionally. Download the three guides that I just mentioned to you. Hopefully these videos that we're posting up on YouTube will also help you get up to speed faster on best practices. Once your book is prepared and the manuscript is formatted to the Smashwords requirements, upload it to Smashwords. Stay connected with your fans on Facebook and other social media networks. They will support you if you support them. And then get to work on your next book. The best selling, highest earning authors at Smashwords are always working on their next book. And here's how you can connect with me if you want to connect with me. Check out the Smashwords blog. We have a little link there on the right-hand side of the page where you can subscribe to the blog via email, and you can receive you'll never miss another blog post again. And there I am on LinkedIn, Facebook. I write for the Huffington Post. I write about ebooks and the future of publishing, so you can check out some of my former pieces there, and I'll be publishing more stuff there in the future. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, that would be cool too. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with a friend. So thanks again for listening. Thank you for your time, and I wish you the best of luck, and I trust everything will work out for you well in the future.